Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. I've been getting a lot of questions, especially since I talked about prepping, the importance of prepping in Africa and with everything that's happening with South Africa. And there's so much happening, even with former Swaziland, Eswatini. Remember the king fled? There's still a lot of revolutionary vibes, but is it being hijacked? There's so much happening across the continent and, across the world. We're also seeing the West, Babylon itself. They've been able to lock down their people and now they've been able to roll out as much of their agenda as possible. And it's like, it's been so hard for them. So Africa's they're forgetting about us for now. But when you see how much they're shutting down on their people and pushing, you will become aware of the seasons and times that we're in. And they're talking a lot of food shortages because there's been a lot of crop failures this time. They're expecting drought that hasn't been seen in people's lifetimes, etc., in the divided states. If you look at different, there's some really good weather YouTube channels where they look at the floods and the storms and the earthquakes and the fires and everything that's happening. Like when you look at all of that, you can tell something is definitely underfoot. And have you guys seen the mice plague in freaking Australia? That stuff is nasty. I mean, one was even gouging out a woman's eye. I mean, sorry to share. But when you look at that, and the Mzungus and mainly the people in those countries are talking a lot about prepping for food because they see what's going on in their countries, prepping, being secure because, they feel like their currency is about to crash and they're doing a lot. So I've been receiving a lot of questions where people are asking, what about Africa? What's going to happen? Are we going to be in the same prison planet situation? What's going to go down? And beloveds, Africa is about to go through an independence 2.0. That's what's about to happen. And you see, they won't be able to contain Africans in Africa the way they can contain their own people. But there will be a lot. We've already seen 5 of our presidents have died under mysterious circumstances. I say 5 because I'm including the Haitian president. All, had defended one thing. If you want to know what they defended, check my Instagram, Dr. Mumbi Saraki. But they're already trying to instigate because they see the Independence 2.0 coming because, beloveds, it's unavoidable. Over 75% of Africa is youth, is below 30. They've been shut out of the system, shut out of everything. And many have nothing to lose. Many have become victims to this engineered poverty of our people. And now they can see it. So it's even more of a mind, a mind twist. That you see that you're the richest continent in the world and yet you have nothing. You're barely able to feed yourself. And so revolution is going to come to many African states, There's tension, beloveds. There's tension. It may, mainstream media may not be covering it because I feel like mainstream media is now like that orchestra that kept playing as the Titanic sank and as the world, as the Titanic burnt and everything. And there were still some people who were caught up in that. But Independence 2.0, and don't forget, with the previous independence movement, beloveds, I mean, we should look at what kind of star alignment and what was going on in that season. But it was like a domino effect because our melanated spirit is connected. I keep telling you about group thought. That's why what is happening in South Africa, beloveds, and the group narrative that we take as Africans is so critical, and not just Africans on the continent, but global Africa. And it's sad that the narrative is being set right now by mainstream media. Oh, these violent thieves and criminals stealing and burning everything like they're mad. And, poverty is coming to them. Starvation's coming to them. And we have to just move with that, wisdom. I'm just talking about what's happening in South Africa right now. But we have to move with the wisdom that, Independence 2.0 is coming because you see, Africa rules next. And everybody knows it, apart from many Africans. And so they know that for us to rule next, we're going to have to overcome this system. Otherwise, how is it going to happen? It can only happen with the revolution, but the revolution is already happening in the heart, in the mind, in the soul, in the seat of the soul. Independence 2.0. Just like your ancestors were willing to do what needed to be done, you also have to now move into the space of being willing to do what needs to be done. Because the independence will, the second independence struggle will happen with or without us. Because it's not a physical thing, beloveds. It's not something that's happening because, Kamau or John or whoever across the continent decided it's time, or a leader or whatever. It's not about them. It's about the spirit. I keep telling you, we live in a mental world. The law of mentalism, the first and fundamental law. And so everything is being created on the spiritual realm. And so when I tell you that the spirit of the ancient ones is back and the spirit of the ancestors is back, what do you think they're creating on the spiritual realm? It is only a matter of time that it will manifest on the physical realm. But we have to elevate ourselves to the highest level, because you see, the way reality works, because our collective thoughts are creating our collective reality, is that there are possibilities. There's multiple ways that this can happen. Like the independence, the revolutionary movement is going to happen, but there are many ways that it can play out. It can be hijacked by Babylon, which won't happen, and it kind of it rides that energy of revolution and kind of puts their new puppets in place who are sharper, who are smarter, and more discreet than the older ones. So they can use that path. And they've tried to replace quite a few leaders with their modern day puppets. Some have worked, some have not. And the ones who have worked will be exposed very soon. It can be led through a violent way because there's so much anger and frustration that has been built up among our people. And that also is another spirit. Or it can be a reformation and a restoration, beloveds, where we choose the highest good. We overcome and we initiate a new dawn for Africa, which means we don't fight the matrix, but we walk away from the matrix, actually, and rise above it by starting to create our own and starting to shut down the system, saying, no, we're not going to do that. And we're not going to, take each other out as we try to achieve this and try to achieve that. It's not about us anymore. There are so many spirits that are trying to participate is what is going on right now. Both demonic spirits and angelic spirits, if we want to put it at the most basic level. Highly powerful beings in both the positive and the negative light. And truly, as beings that are here right now, we want the highest outcome for our nations. So how do we steer the independence 2.0 that is coming? How do we steer it into the right direction and make it avoid, the hijacking of Babylon? Because this is the opportunity where Eden avoids becoming part of the New World Order. Now, some nations will make it, but it would be amazing if the whole of Eden was able to stand firm and stand strong. And the Spirit is willing to assist us. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloved, to Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Seraki. The most common question I'm getting right now is, what's coming to Africa? What kind of scenario do you see coming to Africa? And how should we as Africans be prepping? Because we see people prepping all over the world. We should basically be doing the same things. Saving up foods, the grains, rice, gari, all those things. We should just be storing them up, flour, etc., etc. I know those aren't the healthiest, but mainly if you're here, you should be at least growing your own food or coming together as a group of friends and growing your own food or something, at least the basics, and make sure that you're getting those foods that are long lasting, that you're storing them up, etc., etc. And just the same things, but adjust it to your situation. If you're in the cities, you should definitely have a grab and go bag, because what are they planning for Africa? Chaos, beloveds. Because the revolution must come. Africa leads next. We're the most occupied continent on the planet with foreign occupations. Almost 36 countries have a foreign military presence, beloved, that have trained our armies. What if our armies are going to be used to create a kind of Hunger Games, prison planet situation on the continent? I totally, X that out. But revolution is coming to Africa, beloveds. It's already here. It's already popping off. And it's not even so much the people, but it's because the spirit of Africa is tired, and there's certain spirits that are back now and that are propelling people forward. And so for us, yes, we have to make sure we get everything extra. Move out of the cities if you can. At least many, I don't know about the situation where you are. Let me know if it's the same. But here in Kenya, we all have a village that we came from. We may deny it if we're in the major cities, but there's a village there. So at the very least, be connected to your home, because there might come a time where you need to go home. Because they're going to see, the replacement of many of the leaders who are not falling into tow or not following into tow fast enough, or, because I feel like many of the African presidents don't see the real agenda. They've been, they may have been briefed on what's going on, but they don't see how expendable they are, because they want to collapse nations to create the new world order. So you'll only have like 5 governments or 7 governments running everything. And this is the hour, beloveds. We've also been told that Africa rules next. And that rulership isn't going to come in any kind of Babylon system. We also must remember that over 75% of our populations across the continent are below 35. So they haven't grown up with a lot of the things that prevented previous generations. Their minds aren't shattered, which is why they're creating movies and everything. Their minds aren't shattered by the colonialism, etc., etc. Because, there's a reason why our ancestors kept quiet, and maybe I'll do a separate show on this. Why there was such a vow of silence. Because they didn't want that to contaminate our minds. I think they misjudged just how much and how much Babylon would steal of our story, and how far they take that story. But there's now a revolutionary spirit, beloveds, that is spreading across a continent like wildfire. And the revolution and independence 2.0, because independence, within 10 years, beloveds, the majority of Africa was free. I don't even know if it took exactly 10 years. Maybe it was even shorter than that. But it was like a domino effect. Boom, boom, boom. Ghana, Kenya, this, that. And it's ironic that one of the last countries to be free, South Africa, is now the country that will, be the original trigger for the liberation of the continent. Because you see, everyone is just waiting for that trigger, beloveds. Everyone is just waiting for that trigger. And you see, what happens is when you're triggered, all the control, all the manipulation kind of collapses, and you move into your higher spiritual man. And so you're just operating from, it's like the computer gets overridden by the spirit man. But at that point, beloveds, you attract who you are. And many of us have not had the time to clear out the pain and the heartache and the scars. So we have to be most careful that we're not overtaken by nefarious characters and spirits, because everything is happening on the spiritual realm. This is ongoing. It's now spilling into the physical. But the fight for Africa happened, beloveds. That's why you're seeing Babylon fall. But Babylon is in every city. Like every city you should see as like a castle of Babylon. And within the city, so much is going to happen. But at the same time, we're not the only ones who know that revolution is here, that independence 2.0 is here. Babylon knows that too. And so we have to ensure that the process is not hijacked. By doing, by putting our petitions for the total liberation and restoration and reformation of Eden to our great ones, the Most High Creator, our great ancestors, our beloved cosmic ancestors, the architects of this world and of this time. We were born at such a time as this, not to watch what Babylon is saying about what's happening in Zion, but for us to declare a thing over our people, over our nation, over our families, even in your private prayer closet, for us to return to what our ancestors used to do, how they honored and worked with nature, because nature is the most powerful force on this planet, beloveds. And so really, we have to really now engage more. People would say, pray. But we have to engage more in making our petitions known. That every process that happens will be for the highest good of Africa. That only the highest, spiritual masters that we may not even be aware of, that they may be the ones that come through at this time and guide this process, that spirit may be in our leaders, in the leaders who are chosen to rule at such a time as this. Because even the leadership has changed spiritually, beloveds. In many, many nations, the leadership has changed spiritually. But a lot of these people work on they know that there's a slight delay between the spirit and the manifestation in the physical. So they're always trying to just manipulate things. But so much is going to happen in the next decade that will determine the Africa or the Zion or the Eden that you live in moving forward. Move into your highest vibration, your highest spirit man, by eating refined foods, being careful what you're putting into your mind, the kind of conversations you're having, what you're absorbing from the news. And then from that highest perspective, place your petitions and they will be answered. Because the more you refine yourself, the more power you have to determine outcomes. You can change the course of the destiny of a nation if you are vibrating high enough. There are people who are in certain nations that will determine that nation will never burn, just because of that person's presence in that nation. But those are definitely stories for other days. Beloveds, independence is coming to the continent. We must have that revolutionary spirit and be bold and be courageous. And as I said, probably the people that will have to be confronted will be the ignorant and the arrogant among us. Like we're seeing in South Africa. It took the elite coming to loggerheads to kind of trigger what we're about to witness. And there's also revolution happening in Cuba, beloveds, where they're saying enough is enough. Swaziland. But we don't want these processes to be hijacked. Because every time we've gone for independence, the process has been hijacked. Not today. Tuko pamoja.